So welcome on the podcast, Stuart.
Thank you for having me.
How many years you've been a designer now?
Now you're getting personal. So I've been working in design firms since 1992. Yeah,
That's
a long time.
32 years.
Yeah.
What really gets you? What makes you keeps you going every day?
Do you know it's the more you've done this, those joys or those inspirations change. First, it was actual design, creating something. Now it's nurturing, it's mentoring, it's working with others, younger people, developing them and seeing their success. Look, you influence what you like and what you want, and the DNA that you've established, as we have as AAID, and seeing them take that on board and take it to another level. That's where the real joy is now.
Welcome on the podcast, Stuart.
Thank you for having me.
And so here we are today with Stuart Allen from AAID. Stuart, I'd like to begin with, so you've relocated to Dubai.
Yes.
I would like to understand on why you relocated here and your passion to pursue interior design and architecture in this region.
Okay. It's quite coincidental how I ended up here. I was working in Manhattan for 12 years prior to coming here. And then the crash came in 2008 and was really struggling with the industry at that point was really struggling, obviously with all the banks going down, and had a huge impact on what was happening in New York. So during that point between 2008 and 2010, I was doing some freelance work. I used to be a creative director at a company doing a lot of fashion retail. And in 2008, they just let the whole upper tier of directors go on that. So I found myself in Puerto Rico, working on a hotel for about a year. Friend of mine.
That must be an interesting city.
It was a lot of fun, but it was hard work. But a lot of the time, hard work is good fun, and I enjoyed that. And then I was kind of moving around, doing some residential work up in the Hamptons in New York, working in Puerto Rico, had some things going in San Francisco. So I was busy enough. And then opportunity came to do some work in London with my sister's firm. And I was there for 3 days in London. And then they said, "Do you want to go to Dubai?" So packed up my bag and came to Dubai. I was supposed to be here for 3 months, and here I am.
This is which year?
Sorry?
Which year was this?
2010.
Okay.
And here I am 15 years later. Yeah. So I was supposed to be here for 3 months, stabilize the company I was working for, and then move to Sao Paulo in Brazil and start a company there, the same company. However, things started to really gain momentum here. I ended up here working for that company for 5 years as a regional director. And then I acquired the company here and in London and took over the business and rebranded, moved the headquarters to Dubai, and here I am.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so what's your educational background like?
So I first started out after finishing school in the US. In high school, I moved to Brighton in England and did an art foundation.
Okay.
And then I decided that I needed some time to find who Stuart is. And then went to university in Texas and studied architecture and then architectural engineering. And then just focused at the end on architectural engineering.
You always knew you wanted to be a designer?
I always knew I come from quite an artistic family.
Okay.
That I found their art later on in life, their artistic flair later on in life. But design has always been important in our family. Growing up as a child, with influence of my parents, knowing about quality over quantity, knowing what's well made, how things are put together, and respecting form as its true self. So it's never been drummed into me. It really found me, and I've always been good at mathematics and things like that. So architecture and design really kind of found myself. It just all came together coincidentally. I do believe that if you're good at something, that will find you, and you will find it. And I think this is an example of really finding what my passion is. And then the more you get into it, the more you realize how obsessed you are with it, or how of a detriment it could be that everything you look at, you're looking at design. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's bad. So I have a lot of sympathy for people around me personally in my life based on my design and what I'm always thinking, or how things have to be, or how things I want them to be. So yeah, it's a finding. I think some people know that from the beginning. That I think they're fortunate. It took me some time to really realize, oh, this is something that I'm meant to do.
And how many years you've been a designer now?
Now you're getting personal. So I've been working in design firms since 1992. Yeah,
That's
it's a long time.
32 years.
Yeah. It's a
And
long
have
time.
you ever thought during this journey that you could have perhaps been something else?
No, this is definitely it. I would have liked to have been a chef if I wasn't this.
Oh.
Yeah. But I'm better at this than I am cooking.
Wow, 32 years is incredible.
Yeah, it's a long time. And look, I'm not finished yet. Hopefully,
Yeah, absolutely.
hopefully get to do this until the end.
But have you thought what really in design or in the line of work that you spend time on, what really gets you? What makes you keeps you going every day?
Do you know, it's the more you've done this, those joys or those inspirations change. First, it was actual design, creating something. Now it's nurturing, it's mentoring, it's working with others, younger people, developing them and seeing their success. Look, you influence what you like and what you want, and the DNA that you've established, as we have as AAID, and seeing them take that on board and take it to another level. That's where the real joy is now.
And you collaborate with schools to
Yeah,
lecture?
we try to as much as possible. It's so competitive out there on what people are bringing in. Usually, I've had interns with me straight out of school, and some of them are still with me, have gone through their career. Others, they're with you for a little period of time, then they move on to different companies. But we welcome that. It's interesting to see their expectations of what they should be doing. Look, I come back from 30 years where you started out and you were making tea and coffee, and you were essentially just doing anything that needs to be done. Now the expectations of younger people coming in, they want to do all of the fun stuff, all of the great stuff. But the key is at that point for youngsters is to understand what the difference is of what you're learning in school to what the actual application in a business is, and it's night and day difference. You have a great foundation when you get the education, but how you implement that is where the real skill set is. And a lot of people find out they may have done that in school, and when they get into the business environment of what that is, or a professional environment, it's not for them, and they choose to go into different things or different kind of artistic design professions rather than interiors. So it's interesting to see that grow and how it changes over the years.
And 32 years you've been a designer, you've trained yourself for that. And what about the business side? Was that acquired through the process, or?
Oh man, look, in school they don't teach you the business side.
Absolutely.
And when you're a smaller firm, it's quite easy to manage. You're managing your time of 3 to 4 to 5 people. Then you grow up to 10 people. And when you start getting over 10, it's a different game. When you get over 15, it's a different game. When you get over 20, it's a different game. And you find yourself being removed more and more from the design aspect of what your passion is. So it took me a while to learn to not have to do everything myself, to rely on other people to help you with the business side, whether it's from running books, studio management, drawing production, to get people in that you can work with that follow the same kind of moral compass and things like that, to follow your ideas and then let go. And that's a hard thing to realize. But the more I let go, the more I get to do what I'm best at, which is working with the team, influencing, still designing. Yes, I run the business, but I've got really great people behind me to help me do that. So that allows me to grow.
What strategies or design principles do you employ to ensure that the work produced by AAID remains unique and reflective also on the firm's identity?
Look, we're often asked, what's the style of the company, all of these things. Our style is about our process on how we do things. It's about nuances of like attention to detail, designing with integrity, following a story, and always coming back to the beginning of why you were doing something or what the client brief is. We work with our clients as design partners. We don't just walk away and say, here's your design, thank you very much. We like to give purpose to what we're doing, and it's got to meet the client's needs. So these attention to detail, being true to design, using true materials to what they're intended for, is one thing. The other thing, and I've learned this over time, is you hire staff, creative staff, for their creativity. So you've got to let them flourish and blossom. My job is to direct them and steer them in a certain way, but not micromanage or over influence them. What I like to do is give them an idea of where to go, let them bring the creative essence to a project, and then redirect where I need to go through. So we get a variety of different designs, but we've got common threads through our designs, which is the attention to detail, our technical ability on how we do things, our relationships with clients, with contractors, with our suppliers. So that's kind of the essence of who AAID is and what we're all about. And that's really important because we don't want to be known just for doing the same thing over and over again. We want to learn, we want to develop. And that's why events like today are really important. So you learn what's out there, you learn who to work with, what materials are out there, the suppliers, increasing network. And then you can bring all of that creativity into the studio and turn out projects, whether they're award-winning, client satisfactory projects, all of these things. So that's kind of the essence of who we are. That's our DNA. And
that sounds to me like your design process as well, the design philosophy.
It is. Look, I can't do everything. I don't want to do everything. We used to go by Allen Architecture Interiors Design, with Allen being the influence, the main point. Now it's not. It's AAID. We're a conglomerate of designers. Yes, we've got a DNA that I founded. We've got a studio that I founded that is an environment that I want to work in, and I want to encourage people to work in that environment that are like-minded. So it's a collaboration of designers of what we do. Yes, I have an influence on certain things, but the more freedom I get under the DNA that we've created, the better outcome that we have, and the more variety we have. But it's got to meet some certain standards.
And over the years, would you say you've had more success or more failures in the 32 years?
I think you should ask others on that, not me. I would say success. Look, it's a struggle to run a business here in this region. It's a struggle. There's certain business aspects that do not favour smaller design firms, or probably the industry in general, like getting paid, projects going on hold, lack of kind of support on contracts and things like that. It's difficult. But, we're doing well, we're growing. I'm forever grateful to the region for the opportunity. Opportunity in this part of the world is like no other. You in New York, in London, other major cities in the world, you don't get this opportunity, but you got to work hard for it, and I think that's what draws people here. I think people sink or swim here. If you work hard and you're persistent in what you do, and you take grasp of the opportunity, you can be successful.
And over the years, purely from your design context, has there been a major influence on you?
Over the years, yes. There's been my mentor out of New York, who was a huge influence on actual design and attention to detail and the importance of that. But there's also been other influences in my life of people that have shown me ways of how to approach things, managing expectations. I always say to my team, if you don't ask, you don't get. Not to be so passive aggressive or wait for things to happen. You've got to be aggressive is wrong, but you've got to be determined and persistent in what you want. And it's the same with design. If you believe in something, you've got to prove that belief of why you think that's right. And you've got to show that in communication through drawing, through specifications, through renderings, through all of these things. So it's that confidence and belief. And I see a lot of people that lack that confidence here in the marketplace. And, being a designer and having that calling, you should really go with what you feel with and really find a place that you fit into that can help you blossom in this profession. That's really important.
And what's the most that influences you with design?
Look, I love looking at the history of design in the past, looking at different movements and what they've brought. Some of the movements I don't like, but I like looking at the characteristics of what made them movements and what makes them important, and extracting those elements within those movements. So that's really important. Seeing new designs and what happens with color palettes and things like that always interests me. And when you combine these new kind of color schemes and things like that with things of the past, really, really excites me. So, and it's not just in architecture and interior design, it's in fashion, it's in art, it's in music, it's in any kind of artistic movement.
And how do you find these? Through travels or
Traveling,
other mediums?
talking to people. Now you have the internet. Books, reading. I love books, visual books, to go through and look at inspiration from the past, and learning why things were done and understand what inspired and motivated people back then. I think that's really important, and I do feel a bit of that may be lost of new designers coming through, of not using that medium to find inspiration from. Going to museums is great. Traveling is the number one.
And you do then a bit of traveling?
Yeah, I love to travel. I think it was last year before, I went to Vienna for the first time, and one of great architects that I studied back in the day was Adolf Loos, and I actually got to go some of his buildings and go to a bar that he designed and all of this, and it brings back that drive, that love for what you do, like seeing these things that you've studied, that you look at, and you sit in an environment, not just walking through, but sitting there having a drink and looking around. It just really gives you goosebumps. It's what it's all about. Then you start reading the books again and start understanding the design principles. And I think that's really, really important. I really enjoy stuff like that.
Have you designed something and you've executed it, and then you look at it after a few years, and have you thought, I could have done this differently? Does it happen often?
Every time. Look, if as a designer, if you're not learning on a day-to-day basis or learning how to do things better or differently, then that's not the way it should be. if I'm not learning or understanding or thinking that I can do things better, then I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I think that drive and that passion, I don't have regrets, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
What I've done at those times and designs that I've done, great. But yeah, as things move on, things happen in the world, things are done differently. You always look to how you can improve.
Have you thought if only a certain type of personalities should get into designing?
No. Look, you get all different. I think our industry here is a prime example. There's all different types of personalities. People have different ways of doing things. And that's what creates different movements. That's what creates different ideas, different inspirations. How we do things is how we do things. How our peers do things, that's how they do things. Yeah. And there's no right or wrong on that. Look, I like to think everyone has a really good moral compass that does things. I'm a big believer, if you can't do something well and do it properly without cutting corners, then you shouldn't be doing it if you can't do it that way and succeed. But there's so many good firms here, companies that produce amazing work. And you can see over the last 10 years how that's grown. You can go to award shows and see how many new companies are coming out there and the great work that's been done. And there's opportunity for everyone here. So I like that. I like that there's other people doing what we do. Some may do it better, some may not do it as well, but there's people doing stuff, and it's healthy, it's good.
And is moral compass an important ingredient in your design thinking?
Absolutely. Again, if you can't do something by doing it well and doing it properly and looking straight ahead, then I don't think that's fair. We all compete here. We all have to work together in the sense of believing in what we do and doing it in a way that is not harmful or is not harmful to the marketplace or our profession. That's a big point, and I really preach that to my team about how we do things. And again, when I say moral compass, where you have a mix of lots of different cultures, people think of doing things a certain way because that's the way they do things. That's fine. What I'm talking about is, undercutting the marketplace or shortcutting your deliverables, or not doing something properly, not untowards. That's what I'm speaking about. But again, how that's improved here in the region over the last 10 years has been great. You're really starting to see people thrive and doing things in a really good way.
And what is, for you, foundation of your design principle, the foundation of it?
Well, I refer to it as our DNA. It's our ethos and what we're about. It's about our vision. It is this kind of accountability, transparency, the communication, the attention to detail, the integrity of the design. We're storytellers. We think design is a necessity in life. It's one of these things that people don't understand. Everything's designed. Everything is done for a reason. And we want to stay true to that in everything that we do. We understand, especially when you're talking about commercial aspects or most projects on interiors, they have a lifespan of a very short period. It's not like how things were done in the past where something's built and it stands for centuries. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it's just disposable. Things are done now for a time and reason because technology and things are changing so often. You've got to keep up with the times, and things need to be renewed, updated, especially when you're talking about technology and innovation. So we want to design for that. We want to design in a timeless way, with the understanding that things are going to be regurgitated. Things need to have flexibility to move forward with the times. So it's kind of a very different brief now, not designing for that's going to stand the test of time, but designing for something that can adapt and move forward. And that's in all design aspects, I think. So yeah, it's a challenge, but it's those challenges that drive you.
How would you describe AAID's design philosophy and the key elements that guide the firm's approach to creating exceptional spaces?
I think a lot of it is we call ourselves listeners. We listen to our clients. We challenge our clients. They hire us for an opinion. They hire us for our understanding, our insight of understanding things spatially, our selection of materials, color palettes, all of these things. And it's important to really push the boundaries of that. You create parameters in a project. You have to. You can't just have a blank canvas. You've got to create some kind of parameters. But it's good to be on the boundaries of those parameters and sometimes push them so they enlarge. And then fulfilling that with attention to detail, we always go back to some kind of story about why we're doing this project. And whenever we get stuck through a design, in the design, we go back to the story. It brings us back to our roadmap of where we're going to our destination.
So that's like a script.
Yeah. But sometimes you deviate from that, and that's okay. But you always come back.
And are there any misconceptions in the market that is quite evident that you would like, in general, either clients or even other designers that should change? Any misconceptions that's like accepted?
How so? Sorry, I'm not understanding.
Like through the design thinking only.
Yeah.
If there is any misconceptions that you feel a client should understand better.
Yeah, there is no magic button that you push to come up with a design. And design is a process.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Design is a process. It takes time. A lot of the time, we're expected to have everything figured out in design and concept. There are stages, international stages, that are recognized throughout the world of different phases. A concept is a conceptual idea. It's not all figured out. It's an understanding of a direction that you agree with your client on where you're going. Then if through the next stage of design development or schematic or whatever you want to call it, that's where you start shoring up these ideas and start understanding how the design is implemented. So people think, oh, can you just do this? Can you just do that? It's a process. Things develop as we go forward. So doing renders, for example, right at the beginning of the project of a finished idea, for me, is preposterous. You've got to take that and then develop that rendering through the design process so you know how things go together. You can apply that detail, the integrity, understanding the materials, your responsibility of carbon footprints of what's locally available, all of these things, and apply that as you move forward. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest misconception.
And any design risk that you took and it, as a gamble and it paid off?
Yes. Look, at the time, I think you have this kind of confidence that things are right and you're doing it for this reason. And yeah, there's been a couple of projects that I've done things that I'm not sure, even though you can render something, you're not sure how it's going to actually turn out. But most of the time, it works. I think the time where I've taken risks in the design is by handing over the design at a certain point, whether it's to a contractor or only been hired to do certain phases and not take it all the way through, that interpretation of what we've done hasn't been executed well, and we haven't been there to nurture it or to explain or to quantify and qualify or and check the quality of what's being done. There's one project, we did the design, the contractor took over the rest of it, and the execution was not to what we expected or met our standards. And again, it's those finite bits of detail, not taking shortcuts and these things that can turn a project into something that's acceptable to something that's fantastic. And we really try to get to the fantastic part as much as we can. But sometimes it's not in our control based on time and budget. So that's difficult. And that's sometimes where your design can not fail, but not be executed as you intended.
And what's your opinion on AI integration with design?
This is where I probably show my age on this. AI for me is a tool that I think can be used to explore the unknown, but used as a tool to show a design for me is it's a shortcut. Now maybe I don't understand the capabilities as much as someone that is a big advocate of AI, but I like the design process that we do. I like how we communicate and what we do. I believe it can show layers and layers and foundation of honesty and integrity, where AI is a different tool. We've had young people come in that think design is AI, and we stop that immediately and explain the process. And they're quite astonished on the way that we do things and think, oh, this takes time. This is crazy. You could just do this. But when they start seeing the end product and the layers of why we're doing things and understand the integrity and the story behind things, they finally get it. So yeah, I think AI as a tool is something that we should all be looking at. But we got to be careful that we don't let it take over what we do. Design is a human characteristic. It's something that we demand and we look for, and we should cherish that.
Well said, Alan. Thank you. What kind of buildings do you want to design for the future after all these years of experience and with the work that you've done all over?
There's projects that I haven't done that I would love to do. One of them is a place of worship. I don't care what faith. It's I think of creating a place of worship is something that I really like to do. It has lots of different meanings. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are. It's who you're designing for and what it means to that person. I think that would be something fantastic. I always love residential work, again, because you're getting down to something that's really meaningful to the clientele that you're doing. It'd be nice to do projects that stand the test of time, that will be there after you move on, But again, these are wishes and desires, not necessities.
Well, it was an interesting conversation, Stuart.
I appreciate
the journey
it.
of you being in different cities and being here, and your design principles, and I noticed that you've used the word integrity and moral compass through this conversation. I believe for you, like how I perceive it, like with my conversation with you, is I think this whole process and work for you is very spiritual in the sense you apply a lot of moral to it. There's a lot of integrity.
I'm glad that's come across, because it is. This is a calling for what I do. I can't imagine doing anything else, and I love what I do, and I hope that never changes.
No, I hope more clients and buildings get designed by you, and
Thank you.
they can just trust you and give you the brief to get what they want, and I'm sure they will get exactly what they want.
Wouldn't that be a great thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
And I wish all the best for AAID and the future of it, and all the newer ones that are working with you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.